And as you could possibly guess by listening to what I've been saying during this interview, women who knew men for a longer period of time, put them in a familiar environment from an unfamiliar environment, you started seeing more attractive women dating less physically attractive men.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Glen Gilbert Connection, where we talk relationship wisdom for the seasoned man and woman. I am your host, Glen Gilbert. Today's guest is someone who's mastered the art of attraction, not just in dating, but in life. Michael Sartain is a former Air Force officer turned mentor, media personality, and founder of Men of Action, a program that teaches men how to build high-status social circles, attract quality relationships, but most importantly, live with purpose. Whether you're navigating modern dating or trying to level up your network or simply want to become the kind of man others respect and admire, this episode is packed with insights that will challenge conventional thinking and offer real-world strategies. Michael, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your time.
Of course.
So tell us a little bit about your history.
I'm from East Dallas. East Dallas is a very multicultural, it's mostly Hispanic part of town. And the reason why I bring it up is because if you're from Dallas, you know it's like one of the most segregated cities in America. It's Dallas and Chicago. If you live north of Swiss Avenue, it's really nice. An example would be when I went to church at Wilshire Baptist Church, there was not a single person in my church that was not Anglo. And then when I went to high school and I played on a football team, there were maybe 5 that were white. So it was like, because I went to high school south of Swiss Avenue and I grew up north of Swiss Avenue, I was living like these two very, very different existences. I was able to see a lot of socioeconomic issues from both areas, having really rich friends I went to church and grew up with in my neighborhood in Lakewood, and then really, really poor friends or friends that ended up doing several years in prison that I went to high school with. So we were the first school, Woodrow Wilson, to have metal detectors at DISD. And then the year after I graduated, our superintendent went to prison for embezzlement. And it really makes sense because there was no money in these schools. We had a pile of dirt that we played football on. And so that was a, kind of an eye-opening moment for me to kind of have empathy for other people and see how they live. It was very different. Went to University of Texas at Austin afterwards, had no idea how to study because my high school was terrible. They really taught me nothing. Got there, immediately came to the realization I didn't have study habits. I needed a tutor. I was in academic probation the first year I was there. And then while I was there, kind of fell in love with business. So I have a BBA from UT Austin. And then also astronomy, which is something I'm still very much in love with now. And that includes standard model of particle physics, quantum mechanics, relativity, Newtonian physics, stuff like that. It's just something that I read about in my spare time and that I've been, very interested in. So later on, I joined the military. The stock market crashes after 2001. We have a dot-com bubble. The stock market crashes after 2001. And then what happens after that is I can't find a job out of college because MCI, WorldCom, and Enron go out of business. And so I ended up working at Nightlife for 4 years. So about 2.5 years, I'm a DJ, and then about 1.5 years, I'm a manager. During that time, 9/11 happens, and I end up joining the U.S. military. And going from Nightlife to the U.S. military, I also saw a similar contrast, very similar to the contrast that I saw when I was growing up. Whereas I, grew up with rich, well-to-do people, and then went to high school with poor people. When I was working in Nightlife, I dealt with people that had very, very low levels of accountability. And when I worked in the military, I dealt with people who had very, very high levels of accountability. So I got to see the world from both of those standpoints. During that time, my father, he was killed by a drunk driver, pretty depressed about that. Then I started getting into self-help. The first self-help book for me was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle back in 2007 or 8 is first time I read that. And then from there, it just became kind of an addiction to me, going through somewhere between 20, 30, 40, maybe 60 audiobooks a year, then also reading books, physical books at the same time. But the audiobooks would go by faster, obviously, because I could listen to them in the car, et cetera. And I just made it my mission to just get through every single great self-help audiobook, a ton of fiction, doing so, really putting myself out there to try to improve personally. And then 2008, I started giving speeches on different things that I had learned. And this was just totally amateur. It was just like I would go to something similar to Toastmasters, where I would go and just give a speech. And I just got better and better at it. And then around 2011, I finally moved to in 2007, 2008, I'm working sort of pseudo in Nightlife as a sub promoter in Atlanta, while at the same time I'm an officer in the military. And that's when I kind of started coming to some realizations about how social media was going to change the dating landscape. Because back then, we had MySpace. Tom from MySpace is a buddy of mine. We're still friends now. He's coming to one of my charity events here pretty soon. Tom Anderson. And so I'm starting to see the writing on the wall for there to be a lot of changes. 2011, I get out of the military and I moved to Las Vegas. And the reason why I moved to Las Vegas, and I still say this to this day, for a man, this is the easiest city in the world. It is the easiest city in the world. There's no humidity. There's no traffic. There's no state income taxes. The women are beautiful. There's hundreds of new beautiful women, thousands, tens of thousands of beautiful women that come into the city every week. When you want to go see your favorite performer, you have to go buy a ticket, get ready, go there, park, deal with a bunch of bullshit, sit in a seat quietly, wait in line for concessions, etc. When I want to go see my favorite artist here in Las Vegas, I go to the nightclub at like 12:30 in the morning, walk right in, skip the entire line, go on stage, free drinks the entire night, see my favorite DJ, and then I'm home in 4 minutes, back in bed with my cats. Like it's the easiest city ever. Tonight, I have some friends that are in town and they want to go to a restaurant, and it's like, what restaurant? It doesn't matter. It's like I can get a reservation because I live here at STK, Mastro's, Carbone, Capo's, Toca Madera. Like there's limitless, exceptional restaurants, all with almost walking distance from one another. So I was like, I'm moving to Las Vegas. Like I don't want to spend more time with my social life and more time in nightlife and more time chasing women. I don't want to do that. I want to spend less time doing it. So let me find the best place to do that. So there was a point between 2011 and 2013, I was living in both Las Vegas and Los Angeles at the same time. And that's when I kind of came to the realization LA is one of the worst cities in the world for nightlife and dating. And Vegas is one of the best. And so I finally ended up moving to Vegas full time. And then around 2014, it was the first time I was invited to, because I was working with an event planning company, and our main job was to promote the event on social media and to get like large groups of girls to show up. Around 2014, because we had probably thrown the best parties in the city, we got invited to help throw and recruit for the Rehab Bikini Invitational at Hard Rock, at the Hard Rock Hotel in Las Vegas. And Rehab is the name of the pool there. And so we do that. I end up filling in as the announcer, the MC for the bikini competition. And they love me. And the next year they hire me full time to be the announcer for the bikini competition. This time it's probably the second or third biggest contest in the world. It's probably $70,000 total. And so I ended up doing that one. Then I ended up hosting in 2015 the Maxim Halloween party in Beverly Hills. And then from there was kind of a jumping off spot for me, because then I ended up hosting Babes in Toyland, Paradise Challenge, Smash Global. And then now I host the Teatro parties. I host most of the Maxim parties whenever they're in Los Angeles. I'm the red carpet host for that. And then I ended up hosting the Hot 100 at Wet Republic, which is the biggest bikini competition in the world, and Swimsuit USA. And I hosted Paradise Challenge. So like I hosted the three biggest bikini series in the world, and I was throwing these massive parties. And then around the same time, Dan Bilzerian and Ignite start throwing these parties, and I start bringing large groups of girls to those. And then while I'm hosting the Rehab Bikini Invitational, Crystal Hefner, who is she's Hugh Hefner's widow, she was the DJ. I was the MC. And she starts inviting me to the Playboy Mansion. So for me, I go from being in the U.S. military, stationed in Georgia, stationed in Kansas, to now I'm going to the Playboy Mansion, going to the Ignite parties, going to the Maxim parties, hosting the three biggest bikini competitions in the world. And around 2019, but I skipped this whole part. From 2013 to 2019, my full-time career was as a trader. I was a stock options trader. I worked for a small fund called Continental Financial Capital out of Florida, and I was a quant. And so I would sell stock options, mainly puts and SPX. And that's what I did for a living. And around 2019, I came to the realization, I don't want to do this full time. I don't want this to be my main form of income. And I had mastered a way to have this outrageous social life, spending no money, drinking. I don't drink alcohol and I don't do any drugs. And I was like, how can I transmute this onto other men, along with all the self-help stuff that I've learned from, the One Thing by Gary Keller, Subtle Art of Not Giving a by Mark Manson, the things like Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. Like there's all these great lessons that I've learned throughout my life. How can I take these last 25 years of lessons and then put them into a program? And that's why in 2019, I created the Men of Action program. And I didn't realize, because I had been coaching since 2008, from 2008 to 2019 for free, and I had never taken a dime. I've been flown out to speak at different places. Our first month, we were at capacity. And every month since then, the program has grown to where now there's 4,000 guys in the course. And then they're taking these lessons that I've learned that are very counter to what you're seeing mainly from the social circle and dating community. Like, for instance, men and women can and should be friends. It's way better for men to create an environment where women feel safe, because not only do the women feel better, but it's also a much better environment for her to open up and get to know you and maybe possibly generate attraction. Concepts like using social media, where that was sort of an ancillary thing in addition to your cold approach. Now it's not ancillary. It's like 90% of it now. 55 social media has 55% women. Dating apps, there's 9 men for every woman. So dating apps have completely fallen by the wayside and are almost completely useless. Attractive women are not going to nightclubs anymore. They're not going to bars anymore because of the validation that they get from social media and from dating apps. And so all of these things have created a new dating environment. And so you'll see a lot of guys who will come into the program. They've been married for 10 or 15 years. Their Instagram wasn't everything back then. Now it's everything. And so they have to learn these new techniques in order for them to generate attraction with the most women. And again, I'm not saying, going up and talking to a stranger isn't still an effective way to meet strangers. But what I'm saying is, in comparison to having quality social media, it's 100,000 times less effective. So that's what that's what I've been teaching for the last 6 years with Men of Action. I teach men. I'm a performance coach who teaches men how to improve their communication, networking, leadership, and dating skills. And like I said before, we have hundreds and hundreds of video testimonials and 4,000 satisfied customers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your experience, it is, congratulations to all of your accomplishments. It's amazing. And, I'm sorry to hear your father passed away, but it's going through everything that you've gone through since a little kid to now. It just seems just a vast range of experiences and, how do I want to say it? Just getting to know all these people in different settings and whatnot. And then you just took this. The biggest thing that I like is that you had this conscious mindset to like, this is what I'm going to focus on, and this is what I'm going to do going forward. And that's really impressive.
Yeah. I'll say I was, this is not, it's just really confusing for a lot of people. This is not the main thing I teach, but this is the main reason guys get into my program. So I teach you what you want, or I show you what you want, but I teach you what you need. Okay. And a lot of guys, the reason they got into self-help was for a girl. They don't want to admit it. They want to say, well, no, I want to get a master's degree for myself. No, you did it because you want the approval of an amazing woman who wants to take care of you and have children with. That in general, that's what most of us want down the road. Now, in the interim, in the short term, we may want to date multiple women, but eventually we want that one awesome woman that is worth casting aside all the other women for. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we do what we do. And so what I found is that in my 20s, I was ignored. And I was ignored because I didn't understand cues of status. And what I spent the last 25 years doing is getting to the point where I understood what are the cues of status and the cues that generate attraction that are backed up by science. I skipped the whole part in 2015 where Ty Lopez introduced me to Dr. David Buss from UT Austin. And then we started using concepts from evolutionary psychology to support almost everything we do in this course. And so, coming to this realization of concepts like mate choice copying, meaning women finding men who other women find attractive, also finding them attractive. In social media, men who are photographed with women who show approval and compliance tend to be found more attractive and higher status by men and women, things like that. And then also, when I believe it was Oklahoma State does a study where they show men to women, and the man in this particular case, this man is 59% attractiveness. And then they find out, show a separate group of women that this man is married, and now he's 91% attractive. So men who are taken are more attractive to women. These are concepts from evolutionary psychology that we started using in order to generate attraction without using looks, money, drugs, or alcohol. We teach relevancy, competency, access to scarce resources, locations, and networks, humor, charisma, pre-selection, and social proof. Pre-selection, when I say pre-selection, I mean mate choice copying in humans. And so we started using a formulaic, systematic approach to doing that, and the results are outrageous. Like there's nothing I think that's even 1% as good as what we teach as far as the results that we get for guys being around their dream girl on a regular basis, being calibrated to their dream girl, and then having multiple options where instead of the paradigm, which is the majority of big tech, the media, your church, your family, their paradigm that they teach you is you need to pursue after the woman, put her on, pedestalize her, pursue the entire time, show her massive levels of intent, let her know off the rip that you're lower status than her, and then hopefully she'll see enough pity and mercy on you to allow you a date. That's the vast majority of the paradigm that you see. A great example is the movie Hitch. It's a terrible, terrible advice for men. Don't ever do what's in that movie. And then men doing their own thing and not accepting, bad behavior or poor boundaries. That's also derided. It's called immature. It's made fun of. And then so now there's this been rising up of these content creators on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube that all they do is pander to women by saying things that are just objectively not true. Chris GQ Perry would be a great example of someone. Almost nothing he says is true, but he can get up to 1 million likes a post because of some of the stuff he says, like men going to the gym after a breakup is a cope. No, men going to the gym after a breakup is what saves people from committing suicide.
You gave away one of my questions. I was going to talk
because
about
of
that later. I'm like,
the massive level of selfishness that he has because of the fact that he's pandering just solely to women. And the other issue is, I know we're getting way too inside baseball here, but 85% of consumer purchases are done by women, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But because 85% of consumer purchases are done by women, and you make a program like mine where we discuss concepts of evolutionary psychology, where we say this is what men do wrong and this is what women do wrong, when you do so, it's very difficult to sell tampons and makeup on a program like that. And so because of that, a lot of content on this side of the aisle gets ratioed. And so even though I have 80 million views on YouTube, in reality, a lot of whenever I have a video go viral, the next 5 or 6 videos get ratioed severely because the algorithm does not like the idea that I'm taking away eyeballs from people who are buying, feminine care products or whatever. Like, again, 85, look it up if you don't believe me. I'm not saying spending. I'm saying 85% of purchases are female. So that it's much easier to advertise to women on TikTok. And so men who pander to women or women who pander to women, whether it's Shira7 or whoever on these social media platforms, are always going to do better than me, even though what I'm saying is objectively true, backed up by science, sociology, and evolutionary psychology.
Right. It's like you have irrefutable evidence, irrefutable proof. You reminded me of that study where it was women looking at men, just a picture of a guy, and then the picture of a guy that had a ring on. I think that was the only difference. And it just jumped up like, 30, 40 points?
30%. It was 31%. Yeah. 32. Yeah. It was 50. It was, 31. It was 59 to 60%.
And it was all it was a
10% attractiveness to 90% attractiveness. That's what it was.
Crazy.
That's what it was. It's 31%. That one is pretty crazy. There's a bunch of other studies. Like, so for instance, it's a kind of a unique situation. As men, we don't really have the privilege to be offended. So if I came out with a study, and there has been a study on this, men with higher testosterone, are they more or less likely to cheat? Well, the answer is obvious. They're more likely to cheat. They are. Well, that sounds like I'm criticizing men. The problem is no one cares. Like, no one's offended when I say men who have a higher body count before they get married are going to be worse partners in a marriage. Nobody has a problem with it because most men agree that's probably true. We don't have the privilege of being offended. If I say women who have had more sexual partners before they're married are less likely to be good partners, now women get offended by that. Because what is it? It sounds like I'm being controlling, or I'm telling you to not sleep with someone. And I'm not doing that, but I am telling you what the data says. And so now, even though I have equally criticized both genders, I am being ratioed by the social media platform because women get offended by this concept 100 times more than men do. And so that's where we end up in a situation like we are now.
Would you think that men and women cheat about the same?
No, so it depends. I'll tell you what the official data says. Men definitely cheat more, and it's somewhere between a quarter to like a third more. If we're going off like some of the anecdotal stuff I've heard, I will admit that when it comes to cheating, there's more of women cheating and then acting like it really wasn't cheating. And this is, he used a condom. I didn't have an orgasm. It was a threesome. I didn't really like him. My boyfriend pissed me off, etc. Or I thought this is another one. A woman won't count it as cheating if she thought her boyfriend was cheating, even if he wasn't. They'll say that those things aren't cheating. And if you count that, then according to someone like, say, Sadia Khan, women cheat more than men. I don't know what the answer is. I know that women cheat more than they used to. According to most of these studies, they're catching up to men. And I know that men in a vacuum would cheat more than women if they had the opportunity because they have higher serum testosterone. And that makes sense. For a woman, on average, she's got 50, 60, 70 nanograms per deciliter of testosterone in her blood. And a man, it's 700, 800, 900 nanograms per deciliter. Testosterone, we know, controls ambition, risk-taking, and it controls sexual libido. Well, then what should happen is men should want more sexual variety. And that's what we see empirically. So that makes sense. And again, me saying that, no one's offended by it. No one is offended by the idea of me saying men are horny and want more sexual variety. No one's offended by that. Because why? I'm criticizing men, and men are a privileged class, and so nobody cares. It's when I were to say the same thing that, for women, it's like women are more interested in a man's ability to procure resources, a man's wealth, than the other way around. Now it becomes offensive. You're calling me a gold digger. I did not call you a gold digger, but I did reflect to you what the data clearly states. Women are about 100% more, meaning 2 to 1, 100% more interested in a man's ability to procure resources than the other way around. This is a David Buss study that was done on 37 different cultures. I believe 60,000 different applicants that were in this deal. And when 37 different cultures, we're talking about cultures that are outside of, psychology classrooms or North America. So
right.
All over the world. So when you see this over and over again. If we can just accept the data the way it is, then no one should be offended. If something is true, it cannot be sexist, it cannot be racist, it cannot be bigoted if it's true. And so that's where the disconnect happens. And so because the kind of stuff that I teach is so derisive when it comes to mainstream media, even though it is true, it feels often like Galileo explaining to the Pope that the earth is round, and then the Pope putting Galileo on house arrest. Me explaining to the world that men and women are different, and then the social media platforms and ratioing me. It's like, that's kind of where it's been. And the thing is, it doesn't bother me that much because my platform keeps growing, because the results that I get from my clients are so incredibly undeniable that I don't really have to worry that much about whether or not I get 10,000 views or 100,000 views or whatever. It's still grown to, a pretty massive undertaking and a community of 4,000 guys.
You were reminding me of when we were first talking about, the stats on cheating. Talk a little bit about pair bonding and the effects of having more partners. Does that affect men differently, women differently?
So what you should see is that when men have more sexual partners before they get married, it should hurt their ability to have a happy marriage. And that's what we see. Like, that's one way to describe it. But just in general, relationship satisfaction declines with more sexual partners. And what we should also see is the same thing with women. The problem is the effect seems to be twice as much for women than it is for men. Meaning, like, a man could still be happy in a relationship with 20 sexual partners. I'm just throwing these numbers out here. I'm being very reductive. A man's sexual satisfaction, or his satisfaction in a relationship at 20 partners before he's married, would be equivalent to a woman's at 10 sexual partners before she's married. So it seems to have twice as an effect on women as it has on men. And again, that data, while it is, there's many more studies that we can do on that, it also seems to make sense, because for men, their ability to decontextualize sex is far greater than that of women. The average man, so the median man, wants the same number of sexual partners lifetime when he's interviewed about it as the top 1% of women. Let me say that again. So, like, an example I would give is I was just listening to Bonnie Blue on a she was on the Whatever podcast. No, it was Lily Phillips. She was on Whatever podcast. She's a porn star. And when she was on there, she was like, how many people have you had sex with just of your own volition, just having fun, whatever? And she's not even 25 years old. And she says, I've had sex with probably 250 guys. And that's a lot of guys for a woman, especially in her early 20s, to have sex with that many, many men. I know, here living in Las Vegas, male strippers, VIP hosts, guys who are, somewhat famous and rich, who easily have had sex with 600, 700, 800 women. So it's like, even when we're comparing the most promiscuous of porn stars, she does not compare to men who have unfettered, unchecked sexual libido. Another example of this is men who live in the Castro in San Francisco, reporting 200 to 300 sexual partners in a year. So when there's no female selectivity to check the male libido, then you see 200 to 300 sexual partners in a year. So men's desire for sexual variety is so much greater than women's. And so what does that tell you? It means that men actually have a psychology that's more designed to deal with that sexual variety with fewer negative repercussions. And I'm sorry if that offends people, but it's just true. And I'll give you an example if you have an issue with this. Pretend you had a hypothetical daughter and a hypothetical son. Maybe you have an actual one, but in this just to avoid the trauma, let's just say there is a hypothetical daughter and son. I want you to consider your son is on a deserted island. And in order for him to get off this deserted island, he's going to starve to death. He's going to die. He has to have sex with 17 women to get off the island. And people just kind of smile. They kind of laugh and giggle. He has to have sex with 17 women to get off the island. If he had sex with 17 women to get off the island, do you think he'd have to go to therapy afterwards? And the answer is probably not. It'd probably be a cool story. He'd tell his friends. He was like, hey, man, I was doing what I had to do, fist bump, whatever. Now, I want you to consider your hypothetical daughter. She has to have sex with 17 strange men to get off an island. Now, all of a sudden, the smiles go away. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, God, that sounds like rape. That sounds terrible. I can't imagine. Would she have to go to therapy after having sex with 17 strange men? Now, some women wouldn't, but most women, I think, would probably have some problem dealing with that because their psychology is different. Well, if their psychology is different, then it should make sense that it's more deleterious for women to have more sexual partners before they're married, dealing with marital satisfaction, than it would be for men. And so now I've come up with a logical conclusion. I've supported it by evidence. I've even used a thought experiment to show it to you, but yet somehow you're still offended.
Right. Why do you believe evolutionary psychology is essential for understanding modern relationships, especially when starting over, for those guys starting over?
So evolutionary psychology is all psychology is an evolutionary psychology, just so we can grasp this concept. And it was Dr. Buss who actually said that to me. The first evolutionary psychologist was Charles Darwin. All of psychology, behavioral psychology, developmental psychology, all is downstream from evolutionary psychology. Evolutionary psychology is the proto-psychology. It's the idea that because it comes to the understanding that all of your proclivities psychologically were there to solve ancestral problems. And when you look at it from that lens, you'll find that is always the case. There really is no exception to this. There's more also, this is a massive misunderstanding. There is more scientific rigor put into evolutionary psychology findings, far more than there is in behavioral psychology or developmental psychology. Far more. It's not even close.
Yeah, why do you think that is?
Because so many things in evolutionary psychology, the findings are very, very non-progressive. Meaning defining gender roles is something that is very counter to what you're going to teach in a gender studies class at Harvard or Stanford. And so because of that, they have to use more scientific rigor to prove their findings than other forms of psychology, because it's politically untenable to agree with evolutionary psychology. The idea that men want more sexual partners, have more upper body strength, that men who bully actually have more sexual partners as growing up, women who get bullied have more sexual partners, men who get bullied have fewer sexual partners. Like there's all these like really deep, dark findings that you come from in evolutionary psychology that people don't like to read about. They'd rather just stick their head in the sand. And so when you start doing that and you start realizing, okay, these are academic universities, like there is no evolutionary psychology department at Harvard. There is a department of evolutionary studies, and there's an evolutionary psychology department at University of Texas at Austin, but that's a more conservative state that has more tenable atmosphere to study things like mate choice copying. So because of that, what ends up happening is the scientific rigor, meaning like how many times you have to test these hypotheses over and over again, they have to do it more in evolutionary psychology than any other field. And there's a terrific video. It's by it's by Alex from Date Psych and William Costello, where they go over like 60 different, like repeatedly provable, massive innate differences between men and women in evolutionary psychology. They show them over and over again to the point where it's like, it's just not deniable. We are at this point debating whether or not the earth is flat. It is completely undeniable. And so we get further and further down, we go further and further down this rabbit hole. And then you come to the realization is like, well, evolutionary psychology is the truest form of psychology. It has the most scientific rigor behind it of any form of psychology. And I consider psychology in general to be a soft science and evolutionary psychology to be a hard science. And so because of that, it becomes very difficult. And so now the next sling in the arrow is, since you can't really debate the findings in evolutionary psychology, it's like, why are you looking so hard, bro? Who hurt you, bro? Then it's like, why are you so insecure, bro? That's where the insecure thing, that's what generally happens next as far as the argument is concerned. It's like, why are you so insecure, bro? And so, instead of actually having a discussion about this on its face. Now, because we did this for so long, this is the reason, this is the kind of thing that turns political elections. We had Professor Richard Reeves come on my podcast, and he said, almost verbatim, he said, Andrew Tate was our fault. It's because we in academia refused to have a conversation about boys and men suffering. We created this void, and Andrew Tate filled that void. Andrew Tate and content creators like him created that void. And that's absolutely true. That is exactly what happened. He is, and we're talking about somebody he's politically progressive. Richard Reeves is not a conservative. He's a politically progressive content creator. Scott Galloway is a professor in New York, who started saying similar things. And then now, I don't know if you've noticed in the last 2 months, Barack Obama and Gavin Newsom have both gone on podcasts where they started talking about boys and men falling behind. Okay,
Yeah.
well, we were explaining to you that boys and men have been falling behind. In 2019, women were getting college degrees 15 points more than men were. Like men had already been falling behind. They were way behind the problem. And then when you look at the Harris campaign and their woefully inadequate attempt to try to get male voters to come over to their side, you understand that this was a message that was completely lost by Democrats. And because of that, it turned a political election. And now you're seeing the repercussions where Gavin Newsom is like crying about, I care so much about my boys. And you listen to Barack Obama. Now they're talking about boys. They're not talking about men yet. So we haven't got to the point where liberals are considering, hey, maybe the laws on divorce are actually really deleterious to men and it's causing men to self-delete, to take their own lives. We haven't got to that point yet, even though we will in 5 or 6 years. Eventually, the problem will become so pervasive that they can't ignore it anymore. But that eventually it's usually 5, 6, 7 years before they catch up because they want to win political elections like everyone else. And so they have to acknowledge the fact that in this country, there are men suffering. I'm not saying there aren't women suffering. I'm not saying there aren't minorities suffering. There certainly
100%.
are. The concept that men are suffering was something you could not discuss in academia, and now you kind of have to, or you lose all credibility.
I say that women usually suffer in public, men suffer in silence, and that in general, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the stat of self-deletion for men is 4 times higher than women in general. Then that doubles or even gets even a little higher, like 8 to 9 times higher after a divorce.
Yes, so after divorce,
And talking about getting divorced, who initiates, like 1 in 2 people get divorced, 1 in 2 couples get divorced, and then that, 70, 80% of that is initiated by women.
Yes, yeah. So we have 56% divorce rate. 70 to 80% of those divorces are initiated by women, and then when a man has been divorced and he's over the age of 40, I believe that in comparison to the general population, he's 9 times more likely to take his life. That's what I would like to hear Barack Obama and Gavin Newsom talk about, but they're not going to, because then you have to start looking at things like possibly no-fault divorce and like other concepts in divorce, the way alimony is paid, and then start saying, hey, wait, maybe we shouldn't always be taking the child away from the father and let him have joint custody with the mother. Instead of, there was this thing called maternal presumption up into the 1980s in a divorce court where unless she was shown to be unfit, the children were always awarded to the mother. Now, we don't have that law in the books anymore, but we still do act as if that is the case. And so in doing so, we're taking good, healthy men who in a lot of cases, this is just my opinion. Before I was talking about evolutionary psychology. Now I'm just expressing my opinion. 56% divorce rate in this country, which means 44% of marriages do not end in divorce. I believe half of those, and there's other people to support me. James Sexton says the same thing.
Yes, I was just going to say James.
Half of those relationships are also unhappy. So now the likelihood of you having a successful relationship is about 22%. 78% of the time, you're not going to have a successful relationship. Okay. If that's the case, and then 78% of divorces are initiated by women, what I've seen, especially when you look at the divorce ratios or the divorce percentages with lesbian and gay couples, lesbian couples get divorced at 73%. Heterosexual couples, the woman files for divorce at 73%. So when women don't have men to blame, they're getting divorced at the exact same rate. Let me say that a second time so you guys can understand. When women don't have men to blame, when women don't even have men in the relationship, they're getting divorced at the exact same rate. For gay couples, it's 28% divorce rate. So what this might state, it clearly does state, is that a lot of times these divorces that are initiated by women aren't really men's fault. A lot of times. Let's just say half the time it's not their fault. I think it's more than half the time, but let's just say half the time these men are actually not doing anything to fall short, and women are just because of, Stella got her groove back. She's going on a personal self journey. She went on a girls trip with her friends and ended up hooking up with a guy in Jamaica. Whatever reason is for all of a sudden her to be like, I'm not married to my person, I'm sad, and then breaks up her family. Whatever reason that she comes up to do that, she's justified in doing so. So when men cheat in these relationships, they're deemed as horrible people. You see, like a great example of this is that guy from astronomy, is this astronomy or astrophysics? I forgot what the name of the company is. The guy from the Coldplay concert.
Oh,
when
yeah,
he gets CEO of astronomy. When he is derided as this horrible person, And then the woman, she cheated on her husband as well. The HR director cheated on her husband, and no one talks about her, and no one talks about the suffering that the HR director goes through, because for her to cheat, it was self-exploration. Somehow her man did something wrong. For him to cheat, it was because he was a horrible person. And so there's this double standard when it comes to this, and we see it reflected in society. And
100%.
reality is, cheating is bad in either case, but the idea that it's just men falling short and that's why women are divorcing them, we can provably show that that's not the case, at least half the time, maybe more than half the time. And so what's happened is women are leaving perfectly good relationships. I personally believe it has a lot to do with dating apps and social media, sort of jading or perverting or colluding, or what's the word I'm looking for? Delusional.
Well, that's a constant imprint of information out there where women are seeing this all the time. I mean, you can't even really, I would think, for a woman, avoid it if you on any kind of social media.
Yeah, and again, when I bring up the data, no one wants to have a discussion with me on its face. They just want to say, "Why are you so insecure?" And I'm not. Let me say this: when it comes
who hurt you, Michael?
Yeah, who hurt you? When it comes to this concept of like men being invisible, I certainly don't feel invisible. I've dated some of the most beautiful women in the world. I host the 3 biggest bikini competitions in the world. I have no problem finding women to date. But the thing is, because it seems so easy for me, I went and just tried to say, okay, how does the other half live? And in my program, dealing with men who are ignored on a regular basis. Most men are invisible to most men, or to most women. The average man, so let's just say we took 10 million social media profiles and we took the 500,000th one, so the median man, and then we took the same thing with women, the median woman. The median woman is not interested in the median man, but the median man is very much interested in the median woman. This has to do with female selectivity and hypergamy. There's nothing wrong with it.
Right. Homath has a great, Homath has a great chart on this. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
There's nothing wrong with the fact that the median woman isn't interested in the median man. The problem is she doesn't recognize that median man is at the same level she is. And so she goes off and chases a higher status man, and she can definitely have sex with him, but she can't get him to commit. And then eventually settles for the guy who's right across from her, who actually would probably do the best job of making her happy. And instead of accepting the fact that she's with a really great guy, she's constantly being just bombarded with stimulus from social media and dating apps, making her think that she's settling when she's not. And so that's where we've ended up in this situation. We've also seen this kind of issue where it's like men, we derive more status and get more interest from the opposite sex by making more money and being more successful. And so women have transmuted that onto themselves, and they're like, well, I'm going to make more money and be more successful. And the opposite sex might find me attractive. And of course, the opposite is true. That's generally, I don't care one way or the other. Most men don't. And then the other part is women will start seeing men, because it's true, men do brag about the number of attractive women they have sex with. This is a thing. I'm not trying to sit there and deny that locker talk exists. It does. And so what happens is these men are seen as higher status. Pete Davidson having sex with Ariana Grande and having sex with Kim Kardashian, for instance. So these guys are seen as being like, as seen as higher status. And so women then transmute that on themselves and like, well, I got to have sex with Chris Brown, a power forward and a center fielder one time. Therefore, I'm a higher status woman, when the opposite is true. It doesn't make you more sexually attractive to the opposite.
Going back a little bit, we were talking about, it sounds like the top 20% of guys, top 10% of guys, maybe even less than 1%. Talk a little bit about those 80% of guys, like you were saying, are unseen. I think you have a really cool story about, I don't remember who you were with, but the busboy. It's like,
okay. So a couple of things. I want to make sure this is clear, because there's this piece of propaganda in the UK called Adolescence. It's a show on Netflix, and it's complete and total fiction. There's no example of a child watching red pill content and then stabbing his classmate. That did not happen. It's never happened. It's really, really, it's intellectually lazy to even accept that. It's been used in Parliament there. They're trying to use it to pass censorship legislation. It's criminal. It's really something like, we're in the United States. I think someone would take up a civil lawsuit against it because it's how nonsense the whole thing is. In the whole show Adolescence, basically what happens, what was the original question, Glenn? Hold on, I forgot.
So we were talking about the top 1% of guys.
Hey, okay. I remember what I brought this up because in the show, they talk about the 80-20 rule. Yes. Most people, when we talk about the 80-20 rule, we're referring to like the reaction that men get on dating apps. We're not saying that 80% of women are sleeping with 20% of men. Let me say that a second time. Because there's an article in the London Times about me where it alludes to the fact that they believe I think this when I have come out several times and said, I do not believe this. This is a massive misrepresentation of the facts to try to make somebody, to try to strawman someone. So no, I don't believe that 80% of women are sleeping with 20% of men. I do believe that because of hypergamy, most women find a small group of men at the top to be attractive. It doesn't mean that that's who they're having sex with, okay? On dating apps, when we look at this, we see that women in general, so this is like an average woman, she is going to get matches about 10% of the time when she swipes right. So she'll do 1,000 right swipes, she'll get 100 matches. For a man, he'll do 1,000 right swipes, the average man, and he'll get 6 matches. Mm-hmm. So a woman will get 100 matches, a man will get 6 matches. That's about that's about the number I'm looking. It's about 18 or 20 to 1, the amount of interest that women get on these dating apps in comparison to men. And then you look at on, say, Tinder, for instance, and it's 9 times as many men as women. Now, there is one dating app where there's more women than men. It's Christian Mingle. But it's because women all go on that app, trying to find men to settle down with, and men are fooling those women into thinking that's what they're doing. Men are not going on dating apps to try to settle down. I'm not saying it never happens, but it's pretty rare. Mm-hmm. So women are just being fooled in a lot of these situations. Yeah. So what happens on these dating apps is that now you start seeing hypergamy in like an extreme example. It doesn't mean it's manifesting physically, but it does show the interest that people have, and how women, in a lot of cases, because they've left swiped on thousands of men, that they saw that they start believing all these men they left swiped on, these men are beneath them, and that these men, they could easily get these men to commit. In reality, they couldn't hardly get any of them to commit. And instead, they go after this top tier of man. They become very frustrated. They start calling these men narcissists. Why isn't this man accepting, validating me? Why isn't he committing to me, et cetera? And it's like, well, no, you had several good men that you could have committed to that would have been perfectly fine, but they didn't make you feel the right kind of way. And so you chose this top tier man, forgetting that means all these other women also find him attractive. And so now what happens is, in this case with hypergamy and with mate choice copying, is you find, as a woman, you find men attractive that other women find attractive. And you forget this. And because the man was willing to have sex with you, you overlook the fact that he's not willing to commit. And so now we get in this idea it's offensive. People look at it like, no, it's not me. I'll have, maybe 10, 12 girls on my show, and I'll be like, well, how much does the average guy in the United States make? And she'll be like, well, 70,000, 400,000. The average guy makes $59,000 a year. How tall is the average guy? Well, he's 6'2", 6'3". No, the average guy is 5'9", and only 17% of women are interested in men who are 5'9". So it's like you start to see this, and now these unrealistic expectations get transmuted into the actual dating space. And then you have this massive group of men at the bottom that are left behind and ignored, unless they do something like the solutions we provide in the program: start throwing your own events, start understanding attraction triggers, join Men of Action. Basically those things. Now what happens is these men go from not being seen to being seen. The whole environment that I've described when we're talking about hypergamy and female selectivity and dating apps and social media, we're never going away from that. We're not going in the opposite direction. The Overton window is not going to swing back in the opposite direction. We have to deal with the world the way that it is. And the answer, like I said before, is to help other people with their events, to bring people to events, or to throw your own events, so that you have a ratio where there's more women than men.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What inspired you to create Men of Action? And how did your military background shape its philosophy?
What inspired me to do it was I kept getting the same question over and over again. Like, Michael, they would see the reality I was living, where I was dating multiple just insanely beautiful women at the same time. Guys would go on my social media and they would see all of their favorite models were following me, and they couldn't figure out why. And I was just like, hey man, there's nothing special about me. Like there's nothing incredible. I'm not super intelligent. I'm not super good looking. Like, why is it that I was able to pull this off? Let me show you how I was able to pull this off. And I tried to, in the most humble way possible, show, hey, these are the things that I've seen work, and these are the things that I've seen don't work. And I'm not special. There's nothing to do with me individually. I'm not a special snowflake, but this works for me because I understood these concepts. And then these other concepts that weren't working, I threw them out. Just be yourself when you go up and talk to a girl. Just be vulnerable. This is terrible advice. So I just
keep taking my questions, Michael. You keep taking my questions away.
Sorry, any dating coach who tells you to use dating apps to meet women is not a dating coach. They should not be allowed to give dating advice. And any dating coach who tells you to go up to an attractive woman and tell her she's attractive and that you're sexually interested in her, any dating coach who tells you to go up to a woman and tell her that she's pretty and that you want to go out with her is a terrible, terrible dating coach and should never, ever be allowed to give dating advice ever. It works for the best looking guys. If you're in the top 4.5% of men, for sure, go up to a woman and tell her that she thinks she's pretty. That will work. But for the other 95% of men that we've already established, women don't find attractive on dating apps, women find 80% of men to be below average attractiveness. For those men, this is a terrible strategy. You should never do it. And learning, and the problem is because of, like I said, movies like Hitch or you watch Barbie or whatever, it's like only the traditionally good looking guy gets the pretty girl. And that's just not how the world works. It's a great study by Lucy Hunt from 2015, where they go over how long couples knew each other and the correlation between that and their physical attractiveness. And as you could possibly guess by listening to what I've been saying, during this interview, women who knew men for a longer period of time, put them in a familiar environment from an unfamiliar environment, you started seeing more attractive women dating less physically attractive men. That's what happened. The correlation in the study, the correlation at 9 months was not statistically significant from 0, meaning that if you were the guy who's a 5 and you wanted to date with a girl who's a 10, you just friend zone her for 9 months. You let her see you in attractive situations with other women. You don't hit on her. She just gets to see what a awesome dude you are. And then after 9 months, your ability to be able to date that girl, and I actually don't think it takes 9 months. I think you could probably do it in 2 or 3 months. That your ability to do that by putting her in the friend zone instead of her putting you in the friend zone, you have the ability to date much, much, much more attractive women as a man.
Right. Many of your coaches were once clients.
Yes.
What transformations have you witnessed? Any standout stories?
All of them. Yeah, all of them were clients. Having one, client who becomes a coach who's 4'11" and dates really beautiful women is here. I'm gonna take the most basic ones because I'm just gonna attack the tropes. It's my clients who become coaches who are short Indian men who date beautiful blonde hair, blue eyed white women. That's one of them. My clients that are, again, I have a client who's 4'11" who dates beautiful women, and I have a client who's 53 years old who has a girlfriend in her 20s. It's the tropes that you're supposed to believe don't happen. And by the way, none of them use money in order to get these women. These are tropes that you're supposed to believe in, and so when I disprove them, instead of somebody saying, "Hey, that's interesting that he was able to disprove that trope. Let's try to learn more." The answer is, who hurt you, bro? This is manipulative. This is fake. They paid these women. Instead of taking a second and a little bit of intellectual curiosity and intellectual honesty and intellectual rigor and saying, how was he able to make this work? Generally what I get is attacked whenever people see that. But they can call me a lot of names, but they can't call me a liar because when they go and they look at the testimonials, it's pretty clear that what I'm saying is true.
How do women benefit from the program?
So the thing I mentioned before is that the best environment for you as a man to be able to generate attraction with women is for you to create an environment where women feel safe. Okay. So I throw several different beauty pageants. I throw several different charity events. I would say probably pageants and charity events are kind of the main way that I built my social circle over the years. And when women feel safer, not only is it better for women, it allows them the opportunity to flourish more to where if you wanted to generate attraction with them, it's going to happen way better when she feels safe. It's our job, regardless, and I understand this does not sound very egalitarian or feminist, but it's our job as men, because we're bigger and stronger, to create a safe environment for women to feel safer so that they can flourish. Okay. Mm-hmm. Additionally, the majority of my friends are female. Why is that? Because women introduce me to other attractive women. Women get me into better locations, and women calibrate me in order to be around other women. So the other piece of advice that I give men is to have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of female friends. I know some guys are like, I don't like talking to women. I find women to be boring. If you're one of these people, then call them female teammates, whatever you have to do, but you need to friend zone these women so that they're working on your behalf and saying, hey, so-and-so, Glenn is a great guy. Glenn's birthday is on Thursday. And then you invite 6 girls, and each one of those girls invites another girl. Now you're at dinner with 12 girls for your birthday. You get a comp. And now the girls are like, how is this guy sitting out here with 12 girls? They become interested. And now you're able to generate attraction without showing intent. And it's an unbelievable formula that's undefeated and irrefutable.
Oh, man. What's the biggest misconception men have about building high-status social circles?
Yeah, they think they have to brag. So if you
Mm.
want to build a high status social circle, you need to learn a language. Just like if you go to South America, you probably want to learn Spanish or Portuguese. If you want to get good with high status social circles, you need to learn the language of solving problems for other people. So I'm always, whereas other people, they're gonna buy you flowers or write cards to you or talk about your feelings. If I love you, I'm going to solve problems for you. As a man, as a military officer, I'm going to solve problems for you. I'm going to try to make your life easier. When I'm around other successful men and we talk the language of problem solving with one another, that's when we get the closest, when we communicate the most, when we are the most effective, when we're helping each other build a business or dealing with a tumultuous relationship or whatever. Whenever we're doing that and giving each other solid advice. And how do you do that? Go back to the beginning of this interview when I talked about reading books, getting through as many books as possible so that you can be a useful resource in other successful men's life. That is the trick. If you want to start a high status social circle, that's what you should do. In addition to treat them all the same, make them talk about themselves. I make people talk about themselves. I don't talk, other people talk about themselves. I talk about things. Other people talk about themselves. I talk about things. So that's generally what I found to be the most effective way for you to be able to. And also, the last one is value arbitrage. You are the connector. You're connecting high status people with other high status people. You're the suggester. You're suggesting, hey, there's a great place for your point of sale. This is a great place for your merchant account. This is a great place to host your community. So you're the suggester, and then you're also the content creator. It's very easy and free for you as a man to be able to promote your friend's business or to be able to help them with their charity by using social media. So those three things are very free, easy ways for you to be able to help other people and generate a high status social circle.
You have a story where you sat around, like you were at dinner with a bunch of other men, and everyone was talking about how to improve their business, and they were having great ideas. You describe it as you kind of sat back and were like, holy crap, what is happening here? And then when the check came, everyone's fighting over it, and you're like, I don't even have money to pay for mine, let alone the other guys.
I had money to pay. No, I had money to pay for it. Sorry. Yeah, when I said because people misunderstood this. They think what I said is I couldn't pay for my deal. Well, no, I don't mean I couldn't pay for it like I didn't have the money. I couldn't pay for it because the motherfuckers wouldn't let me touch the check. That's what I'm telling you. When you're at dinner with a bunch of successful people, they go to the bathroom, find the waitress, and they pay the check before you even get a chance to see it. That's what I said. When I said it, if people thought what I was saying is I was too broke. That's not what I meant. What I meant is I couldn't pay the check if I wanted to because they were pulling the check away from me. When you have dinner with successful people, all they do is talk about problems they can solve for one another, and they are stepping over each other to pay for the check out of generosity and abundance.
Yeah, I was going to ask about, I really like that example because it showed to me, taking a step back and looking at it high level, the importance of having a group of men that you can talk to, put your trust into. And
a group of men and women. I don't want to just say, like, I know the woman who taught me how to trade stock options, fantastic woman. But in general, high status social circles, most of the time, go to self-help conference if you don't believe me, it's 90% men. It just, it is because we as men we are taught through our entire lives that we have a burden of performance. We don't have the privilege of being offended, and we're not special snowflakes. So men just get involved in self-improvement and business growth more than women. It's a function of our role in society and testosterone. It is not a function of like women being incapable of improving. It's just that women in general don't have to improve to the level that men do, especially in a sexual marketplace. Women have to go through puberty. Men have to go through business school. Like, it's a very different environment there.
Understood. How can someone start building a powerful network from scratch?
I think the best thing, the first thing you do is have relevant social media. LinkedIn, your Snapchat, your Instagram, your YouTube, your Facebook, your Twitter. Just have interesting things to say and relevant content out there that makes you seem like an attractive person to hang out with. And that's for men and women. I think that's the number one, because regardless of how effective it is, it's still 100,000 times more scalable than any other strategy. There's nothing that shows higher status with lower perceived effort than social media. So, like, fixing your social media is number one. I get a ton of for the female friends thing and the fix your social media. I get the most pushback on, even because there's no way to deny it, but you want to deny it so deeply, and especially if you're a 40-year-old man, you don't want to believe that you need to use social media in order to improve your lot with your social circle. You want to believe anything other than that. But the problem is we've gotten to the point where now you're at this point, you're basically arguing basic logic. You need if every business it's so funny when I relate this to business, it becomes very simple. If I am a salesperson and I'm looking for leads, I'm looking for warm leads, I'm a remote closer, I know that me using social media or me using the internet in order to put my message out there to the most, run ads to the most number of people is the most effective way. If I had two flower shops, two florists right next to each other, and one of them was not using social media for anything, not using the internet, and the other one was, anyone who was watching these two businesses would go to the one who was saying, hey, you're not using social media. This is stupid. You're going to end up losing. And we saw this. We saw mom and pop shops getting completely shuttered by the Walmarts and the Amazons, et cetera. We saw this happen. For some reason, when it comes to business, we understand the concept of using the internet in order to spread our message, in order to scale, makes perfect and total sense. But for some reason in dating, we didn't think that that was the case. Instead, it has to do with our feelings. It has to do with our astrology sign. It has to do with fate, karma, and destiny. No, it doesn't. It has to do with putting your profile, your image, your avatar in front of as many people that you find attractive as possible. That is a simple numbers game, and it's inarguable. And it's again, goes back to what I said before. It's like no one wants to have a discussion with me on its face. Instead, they want to say, social media's try hard, bro. It's gay. Why are you doing it? It's like, okay, that's fine. The try hard guy takes your girl. Always. The try hard guy takes your job. Always. The try hard guy gets your employees. He steals your employees. The try hard guy gets the sponsors you're looking for. The try hard guy gets the better business, partner. The try hard guy is in better shape than you. The try-hard guy is always going to win in comparison to you because he's willing to accept reality, whereas you think something comes off as awkward to try hard.
Don't take me out of my comfort zone, Michael. Gosh, Why would you do that? Yeah. For introverts that are listening and they hear this and it just fills them with dread, what would you say to them? Like, what advice would you give to them so they can expand their social
I'm right along there with you. I'm one of them. Yeah. I don't want to do this either. You think I want to put the filters on my face when I go? I'm a 47-year-old retired military officer. I do it because it works. I'm a whore to what is effective. Okay. And so when you truly say, okay, I want to do that, being successful, this little immature pang of, it feels weird because I'm awkward and introverted versus success, bench press max, like higher numbers in your bank account, building a fulfilling 7 or 8 figure business, woman of your dreams. Which weighs more to you? But it feels awkward, Michael. So I'm not going to give of myself. It is a massive, I'm just going to be honest with you. A lot of people don't like to hear this. There's 2 dating coaches I know. They're like, we're the dating coach for the introverted guy. If you want to be the dating coach for the introverted guy, it's like being the dating coach for the fat guy. Like the trick is to not be the dating coach for the fat guy. The trick is to stop being fat. The trick is not to be the dating coach for the introverted guy. The trick is to put on a persona where you can make yourself not introverted. I can make myself extroverted or introverted. It's my choice because these are words coming out of my mouth and I choose to say them. If you're an introverted person, then you can make the choice, and maybe you got to imagine, maybe you got to be an actor, and maybe you have to come up with some other way for you to become louder, more demonstrative, put spaces in between your words, talk slower with a deeper voice, a deeper register. Maybe you have to do that. Maybe you have to create a persona to do that, but it's your responsibility to make that change. And you can consistently say, no, Michael, there's got to be a better way. Vibe, fate, karma, destiny, astrology, whatever. It's like, no, my astrological sign, I'm just going to attract my person. Whatever you believe. If you're a beautiful woman, you're privileged enough to believe that. You can believe in that nonsense. If you're a man, go a decade without sex. If you believe in that bullshit. And so you have to get over this approach anxiety. You have to get over this, it feels try hard. You have to get over, it feels awkward. Get over it. You're going to have to. And if you want help with that, I got a program for you where we're going to
say, is there a program, Michael?
You have a massive advantage being an extrovert. I'm sorry. Yeah. A lot of people don't like this. You have a massive advantage in the NBA if you're taller than shorter, and you have a massive advantage when talking to women when you're an extrovert versus an introvert. I don't care what anyone says. Now, if you're Justin Bieber, if you're a famous artist, you won an Academy Award, you're a famous actor, you're a famous social media celebrity, and you are introverted, you're totally fine because you have another mechanism with which to create attraction and value. That's different. 99% of you don't fall in that category. And so therefore, you're going to have to give of yourself. And when things feel awkward, you're going to have to shut the fuck up and toughen up and actually start giving of yourself. Sorry.
it's setting back. If you stand back, it's the difference between I don't want to leave my comfort zone. Yes. I'm going to come up with a ton of excuses not to do it versus mindset of this is what I need to do. This is what I need to go out and start doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Looking at astronomy and physics, Michael, how do you think understanding the cosmos influences the way we think about human behavior and relationships? I had to throw something like this out there.
Yeah. So there's two ultimate. I am actually a religious person, but there's two ultimate truths I believe in, and that is the physical world, physics, so Newtonian physics, astronomy, astrophysics, Newtonian, or what's it called, quantum mechanics. I believe in the physical world, the standard model of particle physics, etc. And then I believe in natural selection. These are like my ultimate truths, and everything I believe start from these two places. And so for me, I think what physics does is allows us to take a look at objective reality, even when we don't like what it says. Okay. So if you look at objective reality, we're very minuscule in comparison to the entire universe. And we have not been around very long. And we're a species that basically doesn't have much free will and is the result of 178 million years of mammalian evolution, 3 million years of hominid evolution, 200,000 years of Homo sapien evolution. And so it comes off as we're not special. This is where flat Earth came from. Flat Earth is flat Earth is special Earth. It just means the entire universe revolves around the Earth. The Earth is the center of all the universe. Flat Earth is not about the Earth being flat. It's about the people who believe in flat Earth feeling special. And so when you come to the reality of, you look at astrophysics, you come to reality, we're not really that special. The universe is a beautiful place. It's actually more beautiful than the make-believe that flat earthers or astrologers believe. The actual universe is more interesting than that, but we're not special. We're not the single point of reference. And so when I look at objective reality, I can still look at it even when it doesn't favor me, when I'm not important. There's been 110 billion people who have ever lived on planet Earth, and I'm just one of them. In 40 or 50 years, I will be dead, and Elon Musk will be exactly as dead as I am. We will all be just as dead as one another. We're not special. So am I able to accept that non-specialness? I'm able to do so by looking at objective reality through, like I said, natural selection and through physics. So that's how it kind of changed. And then it gives me just gratitude for every moment that I have on this earth to try to make it as special as possible.
Why is gratitude so important?
Because it puts you in the present moment. So one of my favorite books is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. A lot of people are confused by that because it's very woo-woo. And I don't read it from a woo-woo state of mind. I read it from the fact that there's actual data in psychology that shows that present moment awareness and gratitude actually lead to a healthier mindset. And so when you live in gratitude, what happens is, and because you really, like all of you are watching this, you're watching this on high-speed internet, you're living after the advent of antibiotics. Half the Earth's population is living on $5 a day. Most likely you aren't. Half the Earth's population died before the age of 5, before the year 1850. We had massive levels, like somewhere between, up to 25, 30% infant mortality at one point, because of we didn't understand pathogens and bacteria, et cetera. Think about how incredibly people would die from diarrhea, right? You had a lack of access to clean water in several places. When you come to the realization of how incredibly terrifying life's existence was for the majority of humanity, and you realize how great you have it living in an air-conditioned room watching us talk on the internet at 186,282 miles a second. When you come to that realization, then you're like, okay, I need to have gratitude for the fact that my life is not that hard. I'm leaving here right now, and I'm going on stage at Marquee Day Club to see Pauly D with 3 beautiful women. And it's just like, I'm paying nothing. I'm just walking on stage. I know Pauly D, I'm going to shake his hand, and we're just going to, I'm just like, I have so much gratitude for this incredible life that I live and how easy it is. I have 3 beautiful animals that I've rescued that love me and sleep in the bed with me every night. And I have right now 1 particularly awesome woman, but in some cases in my life, up to 6 beautiful women who love to be with me, who have genuine desire for me. And I'm one of the few men on earth who've been able to experience that. So I have nothing but gratitude for my life, and you can too. I remember flying in a KC-135 over Iraq and Afghanistan. And I remember the first mission we had over Iraq, we had a fire in the cockpit, And afterwards, the pilot wasn't that excited about it because there's fires in the cockpit. It's a 50-year-old airplane, happens all the time. I was freaking out. I was a second lieutenant or first lieutenant. I was freaking out at the time. And then afterwards, just having the gratitude for the fact that, like, if I were to die, my family would look and be like, hey, he died fighting for his country. Like, I would have no regrets about that. I would have a ton of gratitude when it comes to that. So it's one of these things where, like, when you have gratitude, your present moment awareness, you're more effective as a human being. You're more attractive to the opposite sex. There's just nothing but positivity and great things that come from gratitude. It doesn't mean that you have to be satisfied. It doesn't mean that you don't want things that are better, but you can still be grateful for the incredible things that you have. And when you're like, and you just go to a dinner party with someone who's grateful, and they're just better people to be around.
Right.
They are. Cynicism is fun. It's funny. It's really great for memes, but it's like a life full of cynicism just is not a successful life.
Right. Talk about, you say to provide things or do things for people and expect nothing in return. And I think
Yes.
that is amazing. Explain where that came from.
I don't remember. I think it was How to Win Friends or Influence People. I can't remember which book it was that I read. It might have been The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But later on, I heard it echoed by my good friend, Dan Fleischman. I do things for people and ask for nothing in return. Remember, I talked about high status social circles and always solving problems for other people. So I'm always solving problems for other people, and I expect nothing from them in return. I'm always giving them suggestions. Like right now, I would suggest if you are on Discord or if you're on Circle, I would probably move to School. I think it's a better platform. If you, we have this new, if you're a person who has a controversial platform like me and you're worried about your payment processors going under, I would recommend Easy Pay. Easy Pay, it tends to, they don't hold a bunch of money in escrow, and they actually pay you on time regardless of if you have controversial takes. There's certain things I would recommend for you. If you're a person who has really controversial stuff, I would recommend focusing on Twitter and Rumble as opposed to focusing on TikTok where you're going to get canceled. So these are suggestions that I would make and ways for me to try to solve problems for other people so they can understand. I recommend these Shure mics. These are terrific for audio. I'd recommend soundproofing your place and building a studio in your own apartment. These are suggestions I would give to try to solve problems for people that I care about. Okay. You don't have to agree with my suggestions, but like that's the language that I speak. And in doing so, what do I expect in return? Nothing. I expect nothing in return. And what ends up happening as a result, I get everything. I get invited to everything. Everyone invites me to their stuff. I get invited to speak on stage. I get unlimited opportunities, incredible levels of, I get new clients, new leads. It's unbelievable. The number, I've had over 3,000 people apply to work for me as a closer or a setter. It's just people want to work for my company. Why? Because I do things for other people and I ask for nothing in return.
That's fantastic. If you're enjoying this conversation and want more tools to level up your relationships, confidence, and social life, hit that subscribe button and share this episode with someone who needs it. Don't forget to check out Michael's work at moamentoring.com. And I'm going to throw this out there, Michael. For those who want to debate Michael on his views related to dating, relationships, whatever, and I see you smiling, please hit me up first so I can arrange it. I want to be that connector as well. I would love to set something up like that. So anybody that's out there who hears this, hit me up on YouTube, my channel, The Glen Gilbert Connection.
Yeah, I love doing debates, friendly debates. I prefer to do them on like Twitter Spaces, just because they're very informal. I get a bunch of people to show up. But what I found is that a lot of people are very quick to criticize me in the comments, and then when I ask them to come debate, they don't seem to. They don't seem to show up. They take their ball and go home. So I would love to. I'm very much looking forward to doing it. If you want to have an open and honest debate, if you start making things up, then I'm just going to block.
Yeah,
it.
And please, I'm letting everybody know to include me, and I will get Michael and you together, and so we could have this debate. Love it.
Love it. Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. So, how do you define emotional intelligence in the context of male development?
Emotional intelligence. Well, I think empathy, just in general. I think men are less. It's not empathy, but it's what's the word I'm looking for? So present moment awareness. Men tend to suffer from autism more than women do. Men tend to be less calibrated. And this partially has to do with estrogen and testosterone, but it also has to do with the fact that women are just approached more growing up and have less approach anxiety than men do, because women just don't really fear rejection on cold approach like men do, which is also why I recommend having a ton of female friends to help you when you go approach other women. It's just a fantastic advantage, just an unfair advantage. So because of that, men have more work to do when it comes to, first off, I don't know that I necessarily believe in emotional intelligence per se. I think there's emotional calibration for sure, But the idea of emotional intelligence, I think, is kind of a cope for people who have low IQs to say, well, I don't have a high IQ, but I have a high EQ, emotional intelligence. I don't think emotional intelligence is really a thing. I think emotional calibration is a thing, but emotional intelligence, I don't know that it's necessarily real. I really think it's one of these things where it's like the people who aren't very smart want to feel included with the people who have a high IQ, so they made up a new category that they could win at. I think that's probably a more effective way to say it, because what you're doing is bastardizing the word intelligence. And so that's kind of where I go. I know that's probably an offensive statement, but I just don't know that EQ is really a thing.
Understood. How do you help men overcome resentment or bitterness from past relationships?
Yeah, this is a great one. Just come to the realization that you don't own anyone. Slavery was outlawed in 1865. You don't own anyone. People are always going to do things in their own interest. You think about like the millions of men who like left their wives to go be with younger women throughout history. Now, obviously more women have left men than the other way around, but it's like people are just trying to do their best. You need to have empathy for other people. Understand that when someone, like, just because a woman cheated on you doesn't make her a psychopath. It doesn't make her it doesn't make her a sociopath. It doesn't make her a narcissist. Just because a man cheats on a woman, same thing. It's this bitterness that happens. It's like, not only is it not helpful, but it also doesn't get you to your goal. So like for me, there's this manosphere red pill space, and a lot of it has to do with teaching these 304s a lesson, holding these hoes accountable, etc. This is one area of this space. And then this is another area of space, which is bench press max, more money in the bank account, stronger, reading more books, becoming more attractive, becoming more intellectual, becoming more charismatic, becoming more humorous, having more pre-selection and social proof. I'm only interested in this. I have no space for this.
Who's the focus on? I mean, just right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Who are you focusing on? Someone else or yourself?
Yeah. Correct. So it's like, and the other thing is, and I make my clients say this over and over again, you're never teaching these women a lesson. And it's really hard because you can like see the pain inside of them when they hear this. Your ex who cheated on you, you're never going to teach her a lesson. The women who are unaccountable, you're never going to teach them a lesson. Let that go by the wayside. All it is holding you back from the success that's in front of you. And
hate to say, sorry, go ahead. I was going to say
the bard said this, the poet, Shakespeare, like the greatest revenge is a life well led. So it's like and for me, what's happened so often is that in the past, women who I've left in my past who we had an acrimonious split up, I just did better, and then they just came back. It's always the same thing. I just did better. I didn't try to punish them. When your girlfriend cheats on you, you have this belief. Your mommy might come to you and be like, she wasn't good enough for you, baby, and karma's gonna catch up to her, and karma's not gonna catch up to her.
That's what I was just going to say is karma.
She's going to make a bunch of money on OnlyFans. She's going to some rich dude in Biscayne Bay. She's having a great time. She's at Coachella. She is not thinking about you, and she will never regret cheating on you, ever. Not one day in her entire life will she ever regret any of it at all. She doesn't even feel bad about it. She's totally fine. She's moved on with her life. And you're like, well, I want revenge. I want her to show her. I want to show her. No, just do better. Ignore her. Move on with your life. Passively don't give a not actively don't give a I don't give a about that girl. That's actively not giving a Passively don't give a Hey, this doesn't affect me. We're all people. We're all going to be dead in 300 years. Let's just like move on from this. Let's have some acceptance and understanding. I'm in a different place in my life than she is. I'm going to choose to make less selfish choices than she did, but I'm not going to judge her. I'm just going to move on. And what happens is you throw better parties, grow a bigger business, get a bigger social media platform, get in better shape. And then all of a sudden, magically, this girl who dumped you, cheated on you, they just try to creep back into your life. There's no exception to this. So that's the answer.
You've said, I think you've said, put it on the credit card and move on.
Yeah, no, you charge it to the game. So you take your credit card out, you spit on it, and you charge it to the game. That's what happens. If a girl cheats on you, you charge it to the game. If someone tries to leave your business or someone cheats on you, they're always doing you a favor if you take that information and move on from it. They're not doing a favor if someone tries to like undercut your business or like talk shit about your business and you maintain their employment, or a woman cheats on you and you maintain the relationship. They're not doing you a favor because it means that you're not willing to take the lesson that was learned there. And so now you're in deep shit.
100%. What's your process for helping men build self-worth from within? I think we touched on
action. It's just, I worship at the altar of action. Most people, a lot of you worship at church. Most of you worship at the altar of worthless people and their worthless opinions. I don't care what, I truly mean this. At some point, I don't know when it was in my 40s, I just really came to this realization that like worrying about what other people think about me makes me less attractive, makes me less money, makes me less effective as a human being. When I truly stopped worrying, I remember what it was. It was, I have a couple of friends of mine that are huge models that I'm friends with them, and I care about them very much as people. Nothing sexual, just platonic relationships, but they're very, very huge social media influencers. And I remember when I started my podcast and I started holding women accountable for some of their beliefs, a few of them wrote me back and they were upset by some of the content I was making because these women were hardcore feminists. And I remember thinking to myself, man, I hate the fact that these people are not going to be friends with me anymore. I remember thinking, this is like 10 years ago. And I remember thinking like, oh man, maybe I need to soften up my language or whatever. And sure enough, my podcast blows up. It gets more popular. I think we've gotten 80 million views on YouTube over the course since I started the show. And then all of a sudden, these same girls who had a problem with what I was doing, now they want to come on the show. And so I was like, oh, I just stop caring what other people think about me. Then they want to become associated with me. So I just learned to just stop giving a shit about what other people think about me. It was very freeing. It makes you a more attractive human being. And so that's the lesson that I've learned maybe over the last, I don't know, maybe 10 years, just to stop caring about what other people think about me. And then in doing so, do I piss a lot of people off? I'm sure, but I think down the road, it's just a better existence. You have more respect. And then you also have a following of people who are more loyal to you because they can tell that you're genuinely talking about things that you believe in. So I would say,
yeah, go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say the book. It sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm thinking of the book "Stop Giving an F" by Mark Manson.
Yeah, Subtle Art of Not Giving a F by Mark
Subtle
Manson.
Art.
You get to choose what you care about. You get to choose. And it's hard for people to grasp that because they truly believe, like most people in most scenarios in life believe that they are subject to the whims of their emotions. And my good buddy Owen Cook says this. He's like, a lot of people are addicted to their own state. They only want to do things that put them in a positive mental state. Things that take them out of a positive mental state, like doing hard work, they avoid those things like a plague, like lava at the bottom of Super Mario Brothers. They are trying to avoid these uncomfortable feelings, and they're addicted to their own state. Most people live in that. I live in a world where I get to choose what I care about. My internal attitude is my decision. It's my choice. My decision to speak louder so that I'm heard, that's my choice. My choice to control my facial expressions. When I go talk to someone, I have a smile on my face versus, just looking grumpy. Like a lot of guys do. They let low blood sugar look on their face, male resting bitch face. It's my choice to change my facial expressions. I have to take responsibility for that, even when I'm not in a positive mental state. My choice to do so is it's the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people. I do think most people are sheep. And I don't mean to say that in a insulting way, but most people just go along with the crowd. They go along to get along. And you can have a very comfortable survival with a middle-class existence, eating as much as you want, living in an air-conditioned home, sleeping on a comfortable bed. Most people living sort of a sheep-like existence or a beta male existence, it's not that uncomfortable. It's not that bad. I tend to speak to and be heard by and affect more individuals who don't want to live that life, that want to actually make a difference and live a life that's more truly authentic to who they are internally because they stop caring what other people think about them.
Right. What role does personal accountability play in masculine development?
This has probably come off as offensive to some people, but it's like in general, women, because they are more selective, there's a group of men that they don't notice. And you mentioned the example before. I went on a dinner date with two different girls. One of them, she's an academic, and the other one, she was a Maxim model. And I asked them about, I brought up the point. I was like, most women don't notice most men. Both of these women disagreed. Both of them were fantastically beautiful women. And both of them disagreed with me. And then I said, okay, describe the busser. And neither of them even recognized that we had a busser. They're completely unaware of the fact that there was a busser who gave us water. And I tried to use it to explain my point. Most women don't notice most men. That's just the case. As a man, because of my testosterone and because of my evolutionary proclivity to protect the tribe, I have to notice everyone. So I see grandma. When grandma's on the side of the road and she has a flat tire, I still see her. Even though she's not someone I want to breed with, I still see her because it's my job as the leader of the war tribe to protect the entire tribe, not just the fertile young women, right? Does that make sense? And so my job is to create fortification, to protect against predation, and to protect against invasion. That's my job as a man in order to do that. So I see everyone. And my personal accountability aligns with my masculinity. The ultimate form of masculinity is willing to be in service of your tribe. The ultimate form of masculinity is willing to die for your tribe. That's what masculine. We can argue about femininity versus masculinity. The ultimate form of masculinity is willingness to die for your tribe, and so a willingness to serve your tribe. So when you talk about personal responsibility, I have a burden of a performance as a man in general. Now, maybe not in society today. Obviously, I have a ton of female friends who make a ton of money. They have a professional job, or they're an OnlyFans creator, and they make $300,000 a year, and they own a Glock, and they have a fucking security guard who follows them around. Those women do not need to be part of the tribe. They don't need to be protected. They don't like that. Does happen. I'm not saying that, but in general, throughout history, my psychology was developed for me to solve ancestral problems, and one of those ancestral problems was, how do I protect my tribe from predation and invasion?
How do you coach men to be authentic while still curating their image? In other words, how do you navigate the tension between self-expression and social perception for your clients?
So I don't care initially about you being authentic. And the reason why, it's not because of being authentic isn't important. It is important. It's just most of the time when most men tell me about them feeling authentic, what they're telling me is that they don't want to go to the party. They're giving me an excuse why they didn't go to the gym. Whenever I hear men talk about, I don't want to be authentic, they're giving me an excuse for why it's okay for them to be quiet, unheard, introverted, not go to the gym, eat like shit, not read books, etc. I don't care about you being authentic. I only care about you improving. Once you improve and you come to a full and total grasp of like, okay, this is what I need to do to improve, and I need to do these things even when I don't feel like doing them, then you can choose to be authentic. Once you get into an improvement, abundance mindset, then I'm accepting of authenticity. But initially, I don't care about that. Most of you watching this aren't successful. If I tell you something that's going to make you feel successful, if I tell you something that's going to make you successful and you're not successful, it will always feel awkward. I need to say that a second time. It's probably the most important thing I'm going to say on this interview. If you aren't successful and I give you a piece of advice on how to lift weights better books to read, better ways to run your business, and better ways to talk to women, if I give you that piece of advice, it will always feel awkward. There is no exception to this. If talking to beautiful women didn't feel awkward, we'd all have beautiful girlfriends. We don't. If becoming an incredible remote closer, salesperson, business person didn't feel awkward, then we'd all be rich, but we're not, because it is those who choose to take on the awkward task who become the successful men in society, the risk takers, the assertive, the aggressive. That's what happens. So when you understand this concept, I'm going to do the thing when I don't want to do the thing, when it feels awkward, when it doesn't feel genuine, then you're going to be successful. That doesn't feel authentic. So that word authenticity, while in the denotative version of it, the actual dictionary version of it, I agree with that idea. What I found is that it tends to be a cope for men to not take action. Mm-hmm. I worship at the altar of action. I worship at the altar of violent action taken immediately. My default reaction is always violent action taken immediately. I don't mean violent in actual violence. I mean like extreme action taken first, decisions, internal navel gazing, and self-reflection done later, action taken first. When I do that, and often it feels awkward, that's where success is derived from.
I'm thinking of a little microcosm of that whole example of the difference between, well, should I go to the gym? Well, it's raining outside and I don't do it, versus you're in the car and you're already going. You don't even think about it.
You don't have the privilege to consider not going to the gym.
Don't have that privilege, right?
You don't have that privilege. And then right. Like later on, when you're like me and you're 47 and you have a girlfriend who's in her 20s who cannot wait to take your shirt off because she likes the way your body looks, then you come to the realization, okay, this is why I did the awkward thing I didn't want to do before. Right. I hate nothing. I hate more than Smith machine one-legged squats. I hate them with a passion. I was not built for them. I abhor them, and I do them once a week, and they're terrible. But they're so awkward, and I'm so sore the next day, and it burns so many calories for me to do it because I'm building muscle in places where I'm weak, and I feel so awkward. I just abhor. I hate doing them. And when I do them, then it causes me to burn fat. I have a lower body fat percentage, higher levels of testosterone, less aromatization of my testosterone into estrogen, and I just look better. The girl in her 20s that I'm dating, she has genuine sexual desire for me because I put in the work in the gym.
The point that the the words that you just said that really resonate with me is you build strength where you're weak.
Yes.
And you can
hate deadlifts.
However,
hate them. Hate deadlifts. I do
but
exercise around it, but yeah, I hate them.
But
I do them.
But
Yes.
you know you're building strength in an area
Yes.
where it's weak, and that you could take that phrase, to the nth degree of what a person would need to do. It's like, hey,
I'm doing them because I don't want to do them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I have enough wisdom to recognize that they're good for me, so I do them even when I don't want to do them. Same thing with cold plunge. I do a cold plunge every day, and I do it now. I don't even do it for the health benefits anymore. I do it because every fiber of my being hates doing them. I just don't like doing it. I'm about to go out. It's 107 degrees outside, and I know that if I go do the cold plunge right now before I go out to the day club, I'm going to have so much. It's called heat stamina. Like it's actually very comfortable. Whereas everyone else is sweating to death. I'm just like, oh, it's kind of nice and warm out here. It's really doing a cold plunge and then going into a super hot desert. It actually feels great. It really does. But most people would never do that. Most people, because there's nothing in the world your body wants less than that 38 degree icy cold water around your waist, but you do it every day. But why do you do it? Because you accomplished a goal. You climbed one hill in the morning. You've already changed your mindset for the day to do the thing when you didn't want to do it, to get up when you didn't want to get up. I was out partying last night. I went to go see Alinium, his final show at Zook last night. It was really sad because he's my favorite DJ. And when I was there, we didn't get home till 3:30 in the morning. Then I was up and, kind of having conversation and Bible study with my girlfriend, enjoying our time together, get up. And I don't want to get up this early. I was like, I don't want to, I got to do a podcast with Glenn. I'm going to do this no matter what, specifically because I don't want to do it. I do want to do it, Glenn. Obviously, I really enjoy your content. I'm saying physically, I want to stay in bed.
Understood. Right?
Yeah. Physically, I want to stay, and I do it anyway. And so now, as soon as I'm done with this, going to go put on some shorts, get in the cold plunge. Girl's going to come over. We're going to head over to, this venue. I'm going to entertain her friends. And then afterwards, I'm going to film advertisements for my business. And no matter what, no matter how tired I am, going to get to the gym today. It's a fun little Saturday, but I'm still going to the gym no matter what.
It's all about the mindset, right? If you could witness one astronomical event in person, past, present, or future, and you can't use the Big Bang,
yeah,
which would it be and why?
Yeah, the moon landing.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, it would have been the moon landing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you had a story of where, is it Neil Armstrong where he's landing it and his heart rate doesn't go above 80 because he had so much practice.
Yeah. So his heart rate, So he has about 90 seconds left of fuel, and Buzz Aldrin is calling out the place. And the place where they were going to land, there were huge boulders there, and he didn't want to land there. And so basically, like all of humanity, like if they don't land this thing in the next 90 seconds, they die. There's no rescue mission. The bodies stay there for all eternity. Neil Armstrong's dead body is still on the surface of the moon in the Sea of Tranquility right now, while we're speaking, if he does not make this decision. And all while they're doing that, they have these biometric metrics of him, and his heart rate doesn't go above 85. That we talk about like NFL quarterbacks surviving under pressure. We truly, as a species, do not recognize the greatness of Neil Armstrong. We truly do not. The fact that he was the first to do this, the fact that the man had a PhD at the same time in engineering. He was a professor at Purdue, I believe, after Purdue or Pepperdine, I forget. No, Purdue. He was a professor afterwards. The greatness of that man, we truly do not recognize because we have become so privileged, so bitchy and bratty to actually question whether or not we landed on the moon. No, the reason you question whether or not we landed on the moon is because you couldn't have landed on the moon. You're f***ing lazy. You're a lazy piece of shit. You couldn't have landed on the moon. But the 600,000 men and women who work on Gemini and Apollo, they could get us to land on the moon because they're not lazy like you. They weren't going to take no for an answer. And they understood this was a physics problem, not a technology problem. And they put Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin on the moon. And I will embarrass anyone who wants to debate me on this.
I love it. Two last things, Michael. I really wanted to do a shout out to Access Vegas, your co-host, Rollo Tomasi. What's the most surprising insight you've learned from hosting Access Vegas?
Gosh, there's so many of them here. Creating a safe place for women to feel like they can express themselves is offensive to a lot of men, which I thought was really interesting. I didn't expect that. So it's like no matter. So I've had 3 former Miss Nevadas come on my show. 3. Well, Lisa Song Sutton. I had Jacqueline Tiana Jacqueline, and then, well, actually, Lauren York is still coming on, but she hasn't come on yet. And I've had several Miss Nevada finalists. And the reason why I bring this up is because these are very accomplished women. Some of them are attorneys. Some of, they're married with children, and the audience is still calling them ran through hose. It's like there's no way to make some of these people happy. That was one of the most surprising things. It's like when I had a bunch of models on that were super physically attractive, they were all called sluts. And when I had women on that weren't super attractive but that had regular 9-to-5 jobs, the guys still. This goes back to what I talk about gratitude and just like I was stunned by how there's no way to make these men happy on social media, and so I just stopped giving a f about what people thought about me. That's really one of the things that I learned, and then I created this incredibly safe place for women to come and express themselves on my show. They had a great time, and now like I'm overbooked on every show. Like every time I do Access Vegas, we have just tons of girls. We have girls like waiting to come on the show because they feel comfortable and safe. And then what happens is, this is a crazy thing. After the show, there's generally guys who are in my program that come to the studio. And then there's my producer, and then there's Rollo. And Rollo's married, so he doesn't count in this. But like other guys will come, and we all end up like leaving with an awesome girl who we end up having like breakfast with at Peppermill. And it's one of the greatest meetup, hookup things I've ever done was to host a panel show. I just can't believe, like from a social circle situation, how beautiful it was. Like afterwards, we'd all go to a birthday party together. Like last episode, we all went to Encore Beach Club together, me and a big group of girls, and just had a phenomenal time. And I just like the incredible social circle that I've been able to create in the panel show is terrific. And then the other part is like me being able to speak extemporaneously and me being able to maintain frame while at the same time entertaining 10 girls all at once while reacting to these videos. It's really been a very helpful skill set that I've learned that's helped me speak extemporaneously.
Nice. No, that's fantastic. Real quick, where can people find you? For all those guys that are just angry with you, where can they find you?
Just go to Michael Sartain on Instagram. That's the easiest place to find me. And you can find all my other platforms. If you search for my name on any platform, you'll find it. It's Sartain Podcast on Twitter. It's Michael Sartain Podcast on TikTok, because I've lost accounts on both of those platforms because they don't like me very much. But it's Michael Sartain on YouTube. It's Michael Sartain on Instagram. Pretty easy to find me. And if you guys are looking, you're like, there's some level of skepticism. If you have any doubt that anything I said was an exaggeration, go to moamentoring.com/testimonials and watch the 200 video testimonials that we had on there. And we compensated no one for them. There wasn't one of these things where we compensated them, paid them. The FTC legally says that if people give you testimonials and you compensate them, you have to list that you did. We didn't compensate anyone. We didn't say, hey, in order to unlock the program, you have to give us a testimonial. I know other companies have done that. We don't do that. These are testimonials given completely freely by them. And the only reason we have 200 is because the editor ran out of time. We'd have 700. We'd have 2,000 if we had enough time.
And if you still have doubts and you still want to debate Michael, hit me up on the Glen Gilbert Connection at YouTube.
For sure. Awesome.
Michael Sartain. Michael Sartain reminds us that attraction isn't just about dating. It's about becoming magnetic in every area of life. Whether it's building a network, deepening relationships, or stepping into your purpose, it starts with action. If this episode sparked something in you, take the next step. Reflect, reach out, and keep connecting with intention. Until next time, this is the Glen Gilbert Connection, where growth meets wisdom. Michael, thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it.